Welcome to my last bowl game preview of the season. I will be doing a preview for the national championship, but this is the last bowl game right before the end of the season. National championship, not technically a bowl game there. So last gasp for college football before we have to wait for that long offseason. It's the TaxAct Texas Bowl featuring 6-6 LSU versus 7-5 Kansas State. Tuesday, January 4th, 9 p.m. on ESPN. Kansas State favored by 3.5 points, but LSU given the favorite by ESPN, 53.8% chance of winning. LSU defense taking a bit of a hit here along the defensive line with Neil Farrell Jr. out, 45 tackles, 2 sacks on the team. And then their leading tackler, Damon Clark, the linebacker, 136 tackles, 5.5 sacks, a bunch of other statistics that he's been able to record for this team. A real leader for this program who has decided he doesn't care about leading this team anymore, and it's all about him, and he's off to the next level. So it's going to be interesting to see what ends up happening here for LSU. Ed Oregon out, interim head coach in, Brian Kelly on the way, so the future is definitely going to be looking up for LSU. A tough place to coach. Ed Oregon ends up being kicked out, basically forced out after winning the national championship 2 years ago, and then they fired the Mad Hatter after he'd taken them to national championships. So definitely a tough place for Brian Kelly to come in, but he wants the job, and it's his, so we'll have to see what ends up working out. Talking about this bowl game specifically, though, it's the second ever meeting between these two teams. LSU owns the series so far with the first and only ever meeting in 1980, a 21-0 win by LSU. Record reviews between these two programs, LSU definitely not meeting expectations this season. And again, one of the reasons Ed Oregon was forced out. I was projecting 8-4. Athlon Sports thought 9-3. Ended up 6-6. Ended up being a much tougher schedule than was predicted. I mean, who thought that Arkansas, Kentucky, Ole Miss, UCLA, and even Auburn would prove to be as competitive as they ended up being? I mean, I thought Auburn would be, but who ended up thinking that those other teams were going to end up being as competitive as they ended up being? And it really made the schedule that looked easier at the beginning of the year incredibly difficult for LSU towards the end of the stretch. For Kansas State, pretty much where people thought they'd be. I thought they'd go 6-6. Athlon Sports thought 7-5. Ended up 7-5, so right on it for them. And definitely a team that, you know, it's been a bit of an up and down year for Kansas State. I mean, Kansas State fans know that. They don't expect to go out and be the top team in the Big 12. I don't think that they sincerely expect that. But, you know, they're moving in the right direction. They're being competitive, and they're starting to challenge some of those top programs. And who knows, Oklahoma and Texas moving on, maybe they'll have a chance with a little bit of a recruiting gap. You know, those teams moving out and some recruiting that they might not otherwise have been able to take in, able to attract some recruits to their program that might be able to bring this team up to that next level, that level that we saw from a few years ago when Kansas State was one of those top programs in the Big 12. So so how do these two teams get here? Well, for LSU, they started off the season 3-3, losses to UCLA, Auburn, and Kentucky. Win against Florida, 49-42 against the then top 25. So that was a good win, continuing the win from last year. Before they finished off the season 2-3, but it was against good teams. I mean, they lost to Ole Miss, Alabama, and Arkansas, and they got a win against Texas A&M to get bowl eligible. So it's hard to evaluate them on the basis of those teams because they were so good this season. So maybe an LSU team that's better than that 6-6 record. I don't think Ed Oregon deserved to be fired, especially after taking the national championship 2 years ago. I keep saying fired, technically not fired, but we all know he was fired. So definitely don't think deserved to be fired there against a very, very tough overall schedule. So I think an LSU team that is better than that 6-6 overall record. For Kansas State, started off the season 3-0. An impressive win against a good Nevada team, 38-17, and then they went 0-3, including losses to both of the Oklahomas, Oklahoma and Oklahoma State, and Iowa State. And then they got back on it with a 4-0 streak, including a win against West Virginia, where they went 34-17 in that game. And then they finished off the season 0-2. So up and down and up and down. It's been a fun roller coaster year for Kansas State fans who've been so close to greatness. I mean, I know I said that Kansas State fans don't necessarily expect to be the top team in the Big 12, but really they had their chances at being in that team, and they really were very close to it. So some good wins along the way, some bad losses, ultimately ending the season with a loss to Texas. Oof, that hurts. A very, very bad Texas team this year, a 17-22 loss. Top players of the game here for LSU is going to be the running back Davis Price, who has been able to rush for. Sorry, I messed up my handwriting here. Anyhow, he has had a very, very good year this year. 1,003 yards rushing, 6 touchdowns, 4.8 yards per carry. A true bell cow back for them with 211 carries on the season. Across from him, across the way here, top player for Kansas State is their running back Deuce Vaughn. 5'6", 172 pounds. So that is not a very big guy. That's not a guy that you would expect to be a traditional running back for a program here. But He is incredibly fast. He's incredibly shifty. And he's actually ran for 1,258 yards, 15 touchdowns, averages 5.9 yards per carry. That is incredible, especially considering his size. I mean, you have smaller running backs, but they also usually have a little bit of weight on them as well, and he doesn't. I mean, he is short and he's thin, but he's got the muscle mass, he's got the speed, he's got maneuverability, he's got it where it counts, and boy, does he make it count. He's also been active in the receiving game with 471 yards and 3 touchdowns. So really a very, very exciting player to watch, and I'm excited to see what he can do here against this SEC defense. Keys to the game here for LSU, play like your job's on the line, because honestly, all of the players' jobs here are on the line. You've got a new head coaching staff coming in. This is an anemic team overall. They struggled last season. They've struggled this year. Brian Kelly is a guy who's going to want to come in and put his program in, make sweeping changes, clean out the closet. So for LSU, maybe you're not super motivated to be in this one. Obviously, top players already skipping out in the bowl game, so there's some motivation issues, and it's definitely not the best bowl game to play in, but you are proving that you deserve to be in the position that you are, to be able to proving that you deserve to be starting there, and proving that you deserve to be part of this team in this bowl game, because you can bet that Brian Kelly's going to be watching it. He's going to be watching the tape, seeing which players are showing up and are motivated and are going to be the players he wants in his system. For Kansas State, find the aerial attack. So LSU's defense against the run is very good, 138.8 yards allowed against the run. Their defense through the air, not so good, 234.8 yards allowed through the air. Kansas City has primarily been a good running team, 160.7 yards on the ground, but only 195 yards through the air. And they have a good running back, but he is a smaller, shorter back, and I think that is going to be an impactor against these big LSU defenders, even if LSU is missing some players there on defense. And I think that's going to be a key for them, is there's going to be some opportunities for Kansas State to find running room against some of these backups that are going to be in for LSU. But in order to open up those spaces, they're going to need to have a competitive passing game that's drawing the defense away, because LSU is going to be selling out to stop the main threat here for Kansas State. So if they want to be competitive in this one, they're going to have to find a way to push LSU back from the defensive line. And to do that, they're going to need to establish a passing game. So here, LSU, good against the run. Kansas State, good on the run. So you do have strength against strength in this one. But if you want to kind of chip away at that strength, you need to have a bit of a passing game established as well. My prediction is Kansas State, more motivated, more intact, more coaching staff and player-wise, more intact. I think that they get a win and another loss for the SEC. Right now, as we sit at this moment, of me doing these bowl previews, SEC is 0-4 in the bowl games. I'm sure by the time this bowl game rolls around, they'll have some more wins under them. But right now, they're 0-4. So I think this could be a 5th loss, which has been a very disappointing, at this point at least, for the SEC. I think this could be a 5th loss for them if LSU doesn't somehow show up with motivation that I think is definitely lacking with no head coach and missing out on some of their key players here. I think Kansas State comes in excited to play this game, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see what Vaughn can do against this LSU defense. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. It's going to be a great it's been a great bowl season. It's been a great season overall. I can't wait for next season. Make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my college football analysis, or really any of these great videos discussing not just Boise State, but college football overall, top 10 games of the week, matchup previews, and really general college news as a whole. So make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. And as always, go Big Blue!